Guys, do you find it hard to make complex sentences in English? If so, you can learn a thing or two from this video because I'm going to be showing 3 ways to make a complex sentence in English. The first one is this, using a noun clause, and there will be 2 more approaches or 2 more methods after this, so stick around for that. Now, what is a noun clause? A noun clause is one that acts as a subject, an object, or a complement. Now, these are some of the words that can signal to you the presence of a noun clause. So I'm going to be writing some example sentences here so that you can better understand the concept of a noun clause and so that you can use noun clauses in your own writing to form complex sentences. So let's take a look at the first example sentence. All right, so I know what he said. So I know something. So what he said, this is a clause, and this clause is working as a noun. Okay, so that's why it's a noun clause. I know what he said. What he said surprised me. What he said, this is a clause, and this is the verb and this is the object. So this clause is acting like what? It's acting like a subject. So that's why it's a noun clause. Okay. What he said surprised me. I don't know whether the train will be on time. So I don't know something. What is it? Whether the train will be on time. It may be quite long, but all this is doing is acting like a noun or an object. You can substitute this whole clause for this. Okay, I don't know this. So instead of this, you can write this clause. I don't know whether the train will be on time. Okay, so the signal words that I mentioned here on the left hand side, you can see some of these signal words pop up here. For example, whether, and then we have what, and then what, whether. These are signal words. Okay. The truth is that she left without explanation. So this whole clause, that she left without explanation, this is acting as the complement of the sentence. Okay. All right, guys, now let me write one more example that is a compound complex sentence. Okay, a compound complex sentence. Let me write it down here. I don't know whether she will accept the offer, and I am worried because the deadline is tomorrow. Okay, so we can see that we have a clause here. There's another clause here and one clause here, and then we have, and I'm worried because the deadline is tomorrow. So in a compound complex sentence, there have to be at least 2 independent clauses and at least 1 subordinate clause. Okay, so in this sentence we can see that this is one clause and this is another, and this is yet another, and this is yet another, but not all of these are independent clauses. Likewise, not all of these are dependent clauses. Okay, so this one is an independent clause. So independent clause, and this is also an independent clause. So we have two independent clauses, and whether she will accept the offer, that's one subordinate clause. And then because the deadline is tomorrow, that is also a subordinate clause. So we have here two subordinate clauses and two independent clauses. So that was one of the methods or approaches. Let's take a look at the other two methods. Alright guys, the second method of making complex sentences in English is by using what's known as a relative clause. So these are some of the signal words. This is not an exhaustive list. There can be other words in the list. So there are two kinds of relative clauses. One is restrictive and one is non-restrictive. So I'm going to write some example sentences here, and I'm going to explain the terms restrictive and non-restrictive. The woman who lives next door is a teacher. So this is our clause, and this is what makes the sentence a complex sentence. Okay, so without this clause, this sentence would not be a complex sentence. Now, is it restrictive or non-restrictive? Well, a restrictive relative clause restricts the meaning. So the woman who lives next door, there can be other women. Okay, there can be many other women living around here, but the woman who lives next door, I'm talking specifically about the woman who lives next door. This is not an additional piece of information. This is restrictive. Okay, the woman who lives next door. If the woman is not living next door, then this sentence does not apply to her. Okay, so the woman who lives next door, you know, a non-restrictive clause will have commas, usually either one or two commas. Okay, so let's say if we had commas, one comma here and another comma here, the woman who lives next door is a teacher. In that case, it would be a non-restrictive clause. A non-restrictive clause gives you an extra bit of information, but you can easily take away. You can easily take this clause away from the sentence, and the sentence will still be meaningful. The sentence will still be accurate. Okay, so the woman is a teacher. So we are talking about one specific woman. The woman is a teacher, and just one fun fact or one additional piece of information is that the woman lives next door. So that is a non-restrictive clause. A non-restrictive clause will have commas, either one comma or a pair of commas. Okay, so because if this clause appeared at the end of the sentence, in that case it would have just one comma, but because this is kind of in the middle of the sentence, there are two commas. So if you don't have any commas, that will make this a restrictive clause. Okay, restrictive clause. In a restrictive clause, the meaning is restricted. Okay, so I returned the book that you lent me. So that you lent me, this is the relative clause, and this is our signal word. This is our signal word. Okay, who and that. So is this a restrictive clause or a non-restrictive clause? It's a restrictive clause. Why? Because there are no commas here. Okay, and also the meaning will also tell you that the clause is restrictive. Okay, the relative clause is a restrictive one. Students who revise regularly often remember more. Students who revise regularly often remember more. So this is our relative clause, and it is because of this relative clause that this sentence has turned into a complex sentence. Again, this is a restrictive relative clause. Okay, let's look at one more example. So this time I'm gonna be showing an example of a non-restrictive clause. The policy which the minister announced last week will affect thousands of workers. Which one here is the relative clause? It's easy to notice, right? So this is our relative clause. Now we can see that there are commas here, one comma here and another comma here. So this clause is set off by two commas, right? So this is a non-restrictive clause. Why? For one, there are commas, and for another, you can take away, you can remove this clause, and the sentence will still hold its own. Okay, so the policy, if you take away the clause, you can still, the sentence will still read well. The policy will affect thousands of workers. The policy will affect thousands of workers. Even without the clause, the sentence makes sense. Now I have a compound complex sentence here, but I don't have much space left here, so I'm gonna erase this one. Although the meeting ran late, the recommendations that the team proposed were accepted and everyone felt relieved. All right, so we have several clauses here. This is one clause, and that the team proposed, that's another clause, and we have other clauses as well. So the recommendations were accepted, that's one clause, and everyone felt relieved, that's one clause. The two clauses underlined in red are independent or dependent. They're dependent or subordinate clauses. Okay, and we have our signal words here. This is our signal word, and this is also our signal word. Okay, so these two are subordinate clauses. The other two clauses are independent clauses. So this is a compound complex sentence. All right, so let's move on to the final method of creating a complex sentence in English. All right, guys, so we're looking at the final method of creating complex sentences in English, and this one is by using a subordinating conjunction. So some of the subordinating conjunctions are listed here, but this is not an exhaustive list. There are many more. It's not possible to write everything down here. So these are just some examples, because although, when, if, while, since, before, after, unless, so that. These subordinating conjunctions show time, reason, condition, contrast, etc. All right, so this is a subordinating conjunction. This is a subordinating conjunction, and here this is a subordinating conjunction. A subordinating conjunction can be used at the beginning of a sentence, or it can come somewhere in the middle of the sentence. If the subordinate clause comes towards the end of the sentence, then no comma is necessary. But if you use the subordinate clause at the beginning of the sentence, then a comma is necessary. I mean, it will not be wrong if you don't use the comma, but most commonly it is used. Okay. So in today's English, this comma is usually used. But if you read English literature, you will see that some of the authors, oftentimes they left out the comma. A complex sentence will have at least two clauses, one independent clause and one subordinate clause. And how will you understand which one is a subordinate clause? The clause that has the subordinating conjunction, this is the clause that's the subordinate clause. Okay, this is the subordinate clause, this is the subordinate clause, and the other clause is the independent clause. All right, although the evidence was limited, the researchers published their results after careful review. This is the subordinating conjunction, and this here is our subordinate clause. Okay, we can turn this into a compound complex sentence. Although the evidence was limited, the committee approved the proposal, and several members asked for follow-up studies. So this is a compound complex sentence. This is a more advanced kind of sentence that if you can write, you will be considered an advanced level English user. Okay. So although the evidence was limited, the committee approved the proposal. We have several clauses here, just like before. So this is another clause, and this is another clause. So this is the subordinating conjunction, and this is the coordinating conjunction. So if you use a coordinating conjunction to join two sentences together, then it will become a compound sentence. So coordinating conjunctions are like and, but, so. Coordinating conjunctions are not many in number, but subordinating conjunctions, oh my god, there are many. There are many subordinating conjunctions, I think at least 50. If you found this video helpful, please like and share. Thanks.